Hi again everybody, and welcome to the February 2013 edition of the Haunted Earth Show with myself, Chris Halton, as your host. And to start the month off, well, it's been very quiet overall generally. The winter certainly knocks out any opportunities for investigating outside, and it has certainly been very cold indeed, with just the odd day where you could actually go out and enjoy it. But mostly it's been freezing, wet or foggy. But anyway, I've been able to carry out my own personal investigation of my own very haunted home, and as you recall, the last time I shared a video from there, I was joined by paranormal people led by Kaz, who came over one evening and carried out a full investigation of the Art Deco room and the master bedroom in my home. And boy, what an evening they had. And certainly in the Art Deco room they picked up quite a lot of cat e.v.p. And what was particularly interesting about this investigation, two things. Firstly, the cat e.v.p, it was verified that there were no cats in the room when it was recorded, because some people obviously would view any video where you have a cat continuously purring throughout the entire investigation as being somewhat suspect. But they were actually present in the room when it was recorded, and of course they were able to verify the video because they actually saw the recordings from that evening before they left the house. So if you wanted verification of something and you wanted it to be absolute, you can't get much better than that. And the other interesting factor, of course, was in the master bedroom. They were able to get a reaction on the EMF meter. Anyway, on this particular occasion I went back to the Art Deco room and I carried out a short investigation. At that particular time I didn't actually feel anything, and this happens sometimes when you live in a house you become that is haunted, because you become, if you like, desensitized to what's going on around you, and it's not as easy to tune in as it would be, say for example, if I went into somebody else's house or a different location. But having said that, we've got some excellent cat e.v.p to share on this video, plus one other incident which occurred whilst I was in that room. So without spoiling the fun, have a look at the video and I'll speak to you again very shortly. Please, could you show yourself? Shirley. Come on, come on. Come on then, come on. Any friendly spirits of this house, could you come to this room please? Please, could you show yourself? Here we go again. I just heard someone pushing against the door. Very, very funny. It's like a sharp push. I hope it's come out on the videotape. Whoops! Walking around in the dark and looking through a viewfinder is not necessarily the best way of moving around. Yeah, I heard someone bang on the door. The other night I was lying in bed, I could hear the bathroom light going off and on, but the bathroom light was very much switched off. It was a sound that I heard, like I heard the sound of the bang on the door, push. And I'm still getting a problem with I have a downstairs toilet. It's like it's in an annex area of the house, and quite often when you're in there you see a shadow move past. You see it actually go across the front of you, and of course the shadow appears as though it's coming from behind you, which makes the whole process seem very, very strange. Very, very strange. I'm not too worried about the odd bangs on the doors. I haven't had too much of late. It's been pretty good. But I think the most measurable thing that I've had is the cat e.v.p. And I'm not sure if there are any here tonight. I certainly can't feel that. But the door again. Some people have commented on some of the videos where the door has been pushed open or banged, that anyone could have been there to do that, etc, etc. Well, the problem is with most of what we actually shoot, everybody I'm talking about, most of this can be fabricated if people put their minds to it. But what is the point? What is the point of me spending the amount of time as I do as a full-time researcher fabricating this kind of activity? Because A, it doesn't bring me any closer to what I'm trying to learn, and B, it really lacks objectivity. It just seems totally pointless. It really, really does. I have somebody in my own home who plays pranks with me, who bangs on doors, who makes things happen. I have a cat, or cats in this house. There are two now in spirit, and I pick them up only as e.v.p. There is an old man who puts in an appearance from time to time, and you occasionally hear his voice, and that's been shared as e.v.p. And then of course, for quite a while I haven't seen much of her. There is another visitor called Ellie, a little girl, who didn't actually die here, but she lived here and was in hospital when she died. And so, you know, there's a lot of history attached to this property. A lot of people have lived here. It was used as it was actually owned by the police authority. It had a small police station integral to the actual house, and over the years many, many families have lived here. So there is a constant turnover of activity, of people in spirit coming back in visitation and people moving on. and I think I'm probably the longest occupant of this house. So that's more or less the history of this property from a paranormal aspect. And so of course any one of them could be the one who likes to play gentle jokes. Oh, not forgetting the master bedroom of course, and the activities that have occurred there, and the fact that there is at least 2 portals running into that room. So yeah, it's quite an interesting property, whichever way you look at it. There's always something going on here. I'm not feeling much now. It seems to have tapered off. So I'm going to call it quits in this room. Yes, you probably guessed it, another bang on the door. This time the door didn't open or shake, it was just a bang. And I've become more or less acclimatized to that too. I hear and see lots of strange things around the house, and of course I discuss most of those with you on the actual investigation. Unfortunately, on that particular night the master bedroom was quiet, but you know, this happens. Unfortunately, you can't guarantee activity 24/7. There are some days where I pick up absolutely nothing throughout the entire house, no matter how hard I try, and on other occasions then it all seems to kick off. So it was quite an interesting investigation. Sadly no EVP, but having said all that, I enjoyed it, and I hope you did too. You may have found not to notice that the recording on this show is different to the previous recordings, especially in the widescreen quality. I actually went out and replaced the camera which I had, which had lost its firewire connection, with a new camcorder. And this camcorder is absolutely amazing. And without talking any further ado about it, have a look at this video. It's a short video that I took the other day, which gives you an idea of how powerful it really is. Today I've come over to the area between Haybridge Basin and Hive Quay, and I'm looking out across to Hive Quay, across the River Blackwater estuary, and some of the shots just on a test of this new camcorder are absolutely fantastic. You can really zoom in. Unfortunately today, like every other day, it starts off very sunny, very still. I've come down to the coast, the sun has disappeared and the wind has been whipped up, also with some rain and sleet. So the conditions for filming today aren't exactly ideal, but it certainly gives you a feel of this new camcorder. Now I'm standing with a heavy wind blowing against me. One of the features of this camcorder is that the microphone will direct itself to the person that's speaking. It will actually pick out the head of the person that's talking and will focus on their voice. So hopefully you should be hearing me a lot more clearly. But anyway, just a test shot. I had to show you and share this with you this month. I think this little camcorder is absolutely fantastic, and for under £400 I think it was a good deal. Anyway, enjoy the rest of the shots. I know the zoom, you probably noticed, is absolutely amazing, and so is the slow motion. I've never seen slow motion on a camera under £400, and the zoom on it is just out of this world. I've actually seen video of the zoom capabilities of that camcorder, and people have been able to video on a clear evening the face of the moon with great clarity, where you could actually see the craters. Now, it doesn't sound possible, but it is, trust me. And I really like the camera. It's very, very small. I can't show it to you at this moment because I'm talking to you on it. It's quite small. It's no bigger than the palm of my hand. It has an amazing zoom, which you saw, of course, and the battery and storage for video is just amazing. The battery, the extended life battery, lasts for up to 6 hours use, and with a memory card and its onboard hard drive, I'm able to video for a similar length of time. And of course, if I was away, say abroad, and I had no access to power to recharge, I could take another battery with me, which would give me another 6 hours plus an SD memory card, which would also give me the equivalent of 4 hours video time in total. So, you know, I'm quite well impressed with this camera, I have to say. But there is a paranormal twist to this. The camcorder itself does not have night shot. That is the only drawback, but I have other camcorders that do that. But the audio recording on it is particularly excellent. Like the video and the microphone, it actually moves towards the face of the subject. And whilst I was setting up the camcorder on the sea wall, pointing out across the estuary towards the town of Malden at Hive Quay, something very, very unusual happened. And this is the clip of it. Have a look. Okay, I mean, to me, when I've listened to that video clip, I was quite amazed to hear what I perceived to be the word searching. And indeed I was searching, because I was searching for somewhere to focus the camera onto. I found that particularly strange. Some people may listen to it, and with pareidolia and the way the brain actually forms sounds, the brain may interpret it differently for other people, but for me it said searching, and I found that quite odd, to say the very least. And this is the only second occasion that this type of activity has occurred whilst out on an investigation or whatever, setting up a camcorder and actually recording EVP. For some of you more regular viewers may recall, a few years ago I was in the town of Felsted in Essex setting up a camcorder for a shoot towards the church when I recorded this. okay to this day. Many people have listened to it, they've interpreted it as different words in their own languages. For example, it might sound like a word in Norwegian or a different word in Russian or whatever, but nobody has ever been able to decipher what that voice was actually saying. But with the second clip, which I've just shared with you, it's quite clear, to me at least anyway, that it's actually saying searching. And whilst we're on the subject of ghosts, a few years ago I was recording regular videos of investigations at known haunted locations as part of the Essex Ghostly Legends series, mostly shot during the daytime, visiting known haunts, reporting on the history, and again hoping to pick up some activity. And the other day I went to Halton on the Naze in Essex, which is a particularly beautiful part of the county, over towards Halton Tower or Naze Tower, where I recorded a short there concerning some paranormal activity connected with that building. Just in view behind me is an ancient tower built in 1720 as a navigation aid by Trinity House. These are the people responsible for the maintenance and erection of lighthouses around the coastline of the United Kingdom. The only difference is that this particular tower was never intended to be a lighthouse. It was to be used purely as a marker for ships entering and leaving the port of Harwich. The tower itself has an ironworked staircase which takes you right to the roof. Unfortunately this time of year it's closed, and I understand it's used as a tea room and as a museum in the summer. But during 1942 the tower was used by the military for various purposes, believed connected with radar and radio. And one of the soldiers on duty allegedly ran from the building screaming that the place was haunted. He refused to go back into the building and he refused to discuss what he had actually seen. Now, whatever the apparition was, to this day I certainly don't know, and I dare say the people now that run the tower probably don't know. But it's an interesting legend, and perhaps one day we may be able to follow it through and check it out with an investigation at this very interesting ancient relic. No doubt, as you listen to the audio, you could hear children screaming in the background. It was a very, very busy day. There were a lot of people there because it is a natural beauty spot. And again, I thoroughly enjoyed the visit. It's not too far down the coast from Harwich, which is where we investigated the Harwich Redoubt Fort. And again, it was a very, very special place for me, and I would love to visit the tower and carry out an investigation. I haven't contacted the owner or made any approaches with regard to that, but allegedly it has a ghostly reputation, and it would be nice to find out, of course, if that reputation is true. Coming back to the new camcorder, I decided the other day to visit Copford Church near Colchester in Essex. The reason I chose Copford is that every time I've actually been inside the building, it really does have a truly wonderful energy and feel about it. And as you walk around in there, you can almost feel somebody with you, guiding you and helping you. It's a very, very strange sensation. It is a wonderful church. It does have a ghostly legend attached to it. I believe in the early part of the 20th century, a cleaner was working inside the church when she heard the sound of footsteps and books being carried. And as far as I'm aware, that is the only ghostly legend associated with that particular building. But I went there for an entirely different reason. Partly to investigate the paranormal, but also to share with you the truly amazing beauty of the wall frescoes which have been preserved since the medieval times in that church. And for those of you that live in more Catholic countries abroad, Seeing frescoes on the wall is a fairly common event. In England, very rare indeed, because after Henry VIII dissolved the Catholic Church in Great Britain, he ordered all Catholic artwork and frivolities, as they were referred to be removed from the buildings. And indeed, inside this church, it too was painted over, but fortunately the murals were not destroyed, and they've been preserved in the late Victorian period. And I want to share with you my visit to this particularly beautiful and unique church. Today I'm at Copford Church. This church dates back to around the year 1135 and contains some of the most fantastic wall murals you're ever likely to find in the United Kingdom. After the dissolution of the monasteries by King Henry VIII, many of the, shall we say, Catholic frivolities as they were regarded, such as the wall murals, were painted over, and any form of statuary either dedicated to the saints or to the Virgin Mary were removed or destroyed. Fortunately for Copford, all they did here was simply paint over the original murals, and they were exposed during the late 19th century, and sympathetically they were restored, although some of the restorations are, shall we say, a little caricaturish in their styling and date quite positively to the late 19th century in their artistic appeal. However, it cannot be taken away the incredible amount of craftsmanship which is still preserved in this wonderful church, and it is here today that I intend to wander around and touch base with the building and its more spiritual presences. You feel very strongly, and I'm feeling that now, very gentle, but if you like, a kind of church guardian who is here, who remains in this building, who follows you around. And I see him as an elderly gentleman, slightly stooped, in his 70s. He has white hair, very bald on top, and his clothing is quite distinct. It is very medieval, probably to around about the time this church was built. And I understand at some point in history the Danes came to this church and they actually nailed one of the priests to the door of the church. And as I also understand, the original door for which they were nailed to is no longer here. I believe it's in a museum, but I'm sure there are many stories this ancient building can tell from the year 1135. Friendly Spirit, I can feel your presence of in this beautiful building. Could you give me a sign of your presence? Could you tell me who you are? Could you make a noise? Come here in love and peace. I mean no harm or offence. There's somebody just here, right here. Feels quite different, this person. Still very, very friendly, very, very warm. And this person is a man, and he is dressed as a priest. He's wearing a white surplice or smock or whatever they call them. I can almost see him conducting a choir. I can just see him waving his hands to the tune that's being played on the organ. Although these stalls are empty, these pews are no longer as full as they used to be. There's still a very strong presence here inside this building, and I can feel more people here, a lot more people. It's incredible. It's just how it builds up. You know, you walk into a building, you feel an initial contact, and then it gradually increases and gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And now I feel quite a throng of people here at this moment. And it's such a warm, very pleasant, very accommodating, very open and welcoming feeling. Well, anyway, we've reached the end of our visit to Copford Church. It's been an entirely pleasurable experience, and there is a lot of energy within this building, and I would thoroughly recommend this to anybody visiting this part of Essex, which is near Colchester, or visiting from further afield. Any American tourists, try and leave London and move out to Essex and visit this church. It's certainly a worthwhile experience. Whether or not we've actually got anything on camera, anything on a spiritual way to share with you, is a different issue. But I'm certainly hoping, and as always, on these investigations, these visits to these wonderful places, my fingers are always crossed. Until the next visit, thank you. Well, that's about it for me this month, save for one more clip I want to share with you, which is not related to the paranormal at all. It's whilst I was at Halton on the Naze. It shows some of the landscape there, and there is a story attached to it. And I hope you can forgive me for sharing with you this clip. And until the next time, I wish you well and speak to you again in March 2013. God bless. I just thought I'd make this special report for you folks back on Facebook and YouTube. Today I visited Halton on the Naze. In fact, part of what I was actually shooting was for my show this month, and I decided to shoot the landscape at this particular part of the coast because it is subject to a lot of heavy erosion. It's actually on a 55 million year bed of basically petrified mud, upon which there are subsequent layers of sand from different seas that existed here in history. And what's happened, because of the mud base, it's gradually worn away, it's weakened the much lighter sand which is on top, and that has caused it to erode. And the erosion is so bad that the authorities have now substituted, instead of a normal sea wall, they've created almost like a stone groin which absolutely runs along the coastline of the cliffs to try and slow down its slow erosion. The biggest fear about this, and as you can see from these shots, these are two World War II pillboxes, and they're actually on the mud. They used to be on top of the cliff. And of course on this cliff is a beautiful tower called Naze Tower, built in the year 1720, which, unless this sand erosion is stopped by the actions of the sea, will result in this ancient tower falling into the sea in about 50 years' time. And coastal erosion is a big problem along the Essex and Suffolk coast, when in fact extended even further afield into Lincolnshire. All the way down there, areas have been washed out, and at the same time other areas have silted up with the deposits from the erosion. And sadly, Halton on the Naze is one of those towns which is gravely affected. And the loss of the tower here, which was built by Trinity House, the people that built lighthouses, would be a tremendous loss, both to the history of the area and of course to tourism. So I've actually enjoyed myself today, and there are a number of fossils that you can find along the shore, mostly shark's teeth and petrified wood. In fact, today I picked up some examples of petrified wood, but sadly I didn't find any shark's teeth. Although at a local cafe nearby, if you're prepared to pay £2, you can buy a packet with a petrified shark's tooth, actually found in the mudstone at the bottom of the cliff. So for now, enjoy the shots. It is a beautiful area. Well, my fingers are crossed that Halton on the Naze, or the tower, will survive those 50 years and much longer into the future.